Very good night, very good afternoon, or very good evening, wherever you are. I am Blake Turner, founder and community manager of the Grateful Migrant Collaborative Community, a community that recognizes the help and guidance of others as an instrument of prayer and gratitude to the blessings sent of the God, our eternal and Almighty Creator Father, whom we thank for allowing each one of us to live this moment together. I welcome you. I am happy to greet you, and I invite you like this video. Invite your friends, contacts, share it on your social networks, and write your comments and the question from now on the base of this streaming. For example, from where you are seeing us, what do you think of this content? What is your dream in Canada? On this Facebook Live, you, a stream member of the community, you will be able to ask the question that worries you so much, that motivates you to do, continue and feel that it defines of migratory path streaming on the to the expert. In this way, to promote the space that educate and have fun wherever the people whom wish to migrate to Canada can clarify concerns with regulated professionals, for which I allow myself to show the following considerations. Okay, first of all, the people with update and quality information take action, producing better results. The comment made here belong at the part that expenses it, but not to this who spread it. The time scheduled for this live streaming today is 20 minutes with 10 questions, which will be adjusted according to the dynamics of the streaming between the audience, guest, and moderator. If any of the questions have been partially or totally answered in this streaming, it will be reported and the next one will be continued without taking into the account previous events. The question must to be Canadian immigration based on the current circumstance in a general way, not particular or specific, with respect, in order to help many people in a similar situation. The most important thing, if it pleases you, Father Creator, that I fulfill my dream of serving you in Canada, so be it. I ask you for blessings, for your blessings. We thank you for supporting our work by linking, leaving your comments, subscribe to our community, Telegram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and share with your friends and your contacts. In this moment, we are going to present our guest. Is Jeric Mendoza. Jeric, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Blake, for inviting me to your show. And welcome to everybody listening to your show right now.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I would like to remember Jeric is an immigration consultant. He has the license for make this work. He's a member of ICCRC, the Canadian regulator to represent service of immigration to Canada. Okay, in this moment, I am going to ask you the first question. Jeric, if it's possible, please let us know your comments.
Sure, Blake, go ahead.
Okay, first of all, tell us, Jeric, tell us why reason and what propose a person should consider migrate to Canada under current condition based on the title approach to this video streaming.
Okay. Again, thanks, Blake, for inviting me to your show. Before I answer any of your questions, I'd like to just emphasize to our audience that whatever we propose or whatever we suggest in this discussion does not constitute specific advice. So I would say different persons or different clients have different backgrounds and different options and different ways of getting into Canada. So don't limit yourselves with the answer to this question. So as an immigration professional, to really look into your case as a whole, not as based on just the question you shared today. Okay, and going into your first question, Blake. Basically, again, we're still in a COVID-19 situation globally, but the situation did not stop Canada to bring in immigrants here in Canada. Okay, so the question is all about, does it make sense to apply in Canada? My answer to that is, if you really want to go to Canada, if the program is open, you apply. Okay, because there's no better timing than a program where you are eligible at the moment. So don't wait until things get settled. All right. Canada never stopped processing immigration applications. The only thing that is basically affected right now are two things. Number one would be visits, vacations in Canada. Canada is closed for holidays right now, but processing for international students, processing for visits of parents, grandparents, siblings are still being done. Permanent residents, they keep on processing it. The only thing that is affected really is visits that is based on leisure, like you really just want to visit Canada for holidays. The second one is, of course, processing time. There are programs that are waiting right now because of they have longer processing time because of, obviously, because of the situation. But what I would suggest to everybody who wants to go to Canada, don't look don't don't overanalyze. At the end of the day, you need to answer the question, do you want to go to Canada? If the answer is yes, the second question is, are you eligible to go to Canada? And are there programs available for you? That's the only thing. There might be programs that closes because of a situation, but there are doors that opens as well. So if you really want to go to Canada, don't overanalyze. Just make sure you're qualified, then just do it.
Just do it. This is the phrase. I think agree with you. Thank you for your time, Jeric, in
Yeah.
this streaming to stay with us together. Thank you very much. I know you are very busy, but you are very welcome to start with us.
Thank
Okay.
you.
In that way, if you are ready, we can start to the question.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Eric. Okay. The first one is Cesar Manuel Chengue López. He said in Spanish, tengo 40 años, soy máster en educación, hablo francés un 50% y tengo conocimiento en construcción. ¿Cómo debo hacer para emigrar a Canadá con la entrada de Express Entry o como estudiante? ¿Cuál sería la mejor opción para quedarme a vivir y trabajar, ya que necesito esa asesoría? Muchas gracias. I am 40 years old. I am a master in education. I speak French 50%. And I have knowledge in construction, as I should to immigrate to Canada with express entry or a student. What is the best option to stay live and work in Canada? Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Oh, thank you, Cesar, for your question. I apologize if I cannot speak in Spanish, but I hope somebody can translate this for you, or I hope you could understand what I will say. Number one, again, I'll answer your question in a general way. Number one is, for those who want to go to Canada, understand there are a lot of programs available here. So I think you don't want to limit yourselves to just be thinking, oh, do I go to just express entry or do I become an international student? I think the most important in making that decision is really to be able to make sure that you have all available information for you. So Cesar, first step is don't limit yourself with express entry and international student. Okay. But answering your question direct, here's the thing. I'd like to address a misconception on the express entry program. Okay, and I think this is one of the few common lies that some immigration advisors or some businesses tell you, that the best way to go to Canada is to via the express entry program. This program is a bit broken, to tell you honestly. Okay, and I'll share you one thing. Okay, when they launched this program, the express entry program was launched by the previous government before the current government. So basically, the idea then is that anybody who has a job offer in Canada, or basically who are provincially nominated, get basically 600 points right there and then. So anybody who has a job offer with an LMIA, or nominated provincially, get 600 points. So bottom line, if you belong to those two categories, you get invited on the next draw. Okay. The problem is, with the new government, they change it uh, such that only provincial nominations receive 600 points. With a job offer with an LMIA, one can only get about 50 to 100 points. So what happens is that the program now is half broken, because the main intention before of the express entry is somebody who has a job here in Canada and who has been cleared with the LMIA process, like the Canada needs your job, becomes a permanent resident. But the points with the job offer reduced from 600 points to 50 to down to 50 in general, and 200 points if you're offered a senior management position like a vice president or president. Okay, what I'm trying to say is that if somebody tells you you're qualified for express entry, there are two things that you need to ask. Okay, first is, are you qualified based on the eligibility of the program? That's a first question. But a lot of people forget to ask the second question. The second question is, what is my CRS points? CRS points are your total points uh, in the express entry program when you create your profile. So when I assess an immigration application, okay, if somebody just finished, for example, and again, it's if somebody finishes just university or college, no master's degree, no PhD, and no provincial nomination, I don't need to compute the points. The points would be less than 400 points, regardless of how high your languages score, how good your age is, or how long is your work experience. So in the last years the express entry program was launched, the lowest points, the lowest cutoff point to get invited with the express entry program was just about 415 points, except for the case of the federal trade skill, which it went down to somewhere around 200 points, but they only invite about 1,000 a year almost. And recently, the Canadian experience class, which they invited about people with 75 points. So what I'm trying to say, Cesar, if you're thinking about express entry right now, it's not an option unless you get a provincial nomination. So that brings your option to your second option, being an international student. Anybody can apply to become an international student as long as you have the proof of funds required for the program. So Cesar, even without knowing the other points you have, even without calculating, unfortunately, it's very tough to get into express entry unless you get a provincial nomination based on the current criteria. So to answer your question, yes, as of now, maybe an international student application would be an option for you. But again, don't forget what I said. Don't limit yourself to this option. As a professional, or research for other options outside express entry and the international student program. So I'm not sure, Cesar, if you're outside Canada right now. Again, for those outside Canada, if your points is less than 400 points, and somebody's asking you to pay because you're qualified, ask about your CRS score. And based on historical data, the lowest CRS score for a federal skilled worker program under the express entry is about 415 points. And if you have just a bachelor's degree, you cannot get more than 400 unless you've got the job offer as a senior manager. Senior manager would be like vice president or president of a company. So everybody, my best advice, if you're looking for express entry, go through the provincial nomination program or through the Canadian experience class right now because it's more viable. Canadian experience class is a program for those who have already work experience inside Canada.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry about the long answer, but I thought it's important for people to be to learn more about the danger of believing into too many promises of the express entry program.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeric, for this question and this answer. The next one is Luis Mogollón. He said, ¿es fácil ubicarse y conseguir empleo en Canadá? It is easy to locate and get a job in Canada?
Okay. I'd like for everybody to understand that applying for a job in Canada is the same as applying for a job in Colombia or applying for a job in Mexico or Argentina, Philippines, or Singapore. You will have to go through a process whether the employer thinks that you will qualify for the job. That's very important. Okay. Now, having said that, to answer your question, okay, most of the people successful to get a job offer here in Canada do it through their own networks. Like they have friends or families who refer them to certain employers, or there are also certain legitimate recruiters who can find a job for you. So what I'm just imagine that the job market is a competitive market. It's the same all over the world. Okay, but always think of yourselves in the situation of the employer. If I am an employer looking for a cook, will I hire somebody in front of me here in Canada, or will I hire somebody from, say, a different country? And the answer is not straightforward, right? If I could find somebody else here in Canada right away, it's easy, right? If I will get it from outside and the processing time takes about 3 to 7 months, these are options usually resorted by employers only if one, they couldn't find anybody here in Canada. Two is that they they were referred by friends, by employees, by their own workers. Those are the best ways to get into Canada. So to answer your question, no, it's not easy to get in Canada, to get a job in Canada, but it can be done. The COVID situation slowed down businesses, right? But I still have clients who are continuously hiring because restaurants are still open, businesses are still open. They still need people. But again, the question is whether how competitive are you? Do you have the skills that a person in front of me doesn't have? So it's all about really your competitive advantage. So you look at it at the point of view of the employer, right? An employer who can't find a cook or a carpenter will go for somebody who will spend money, will look for outside Canada, right? But if they can find it here cheaply, they can find somebody who can work right away. They will always do that. So again, think of the hiring process in Canada or anywhere else as basically a battle of competitive advantage, right? Competitive advantage like your skills, or to tell you honestly, like your connection. Because some employers believe their own workers, right? And when their workers refer somebody, they tend to believe them. So really, the best way to get a job here in Canada is through your networks. use your networks of friends, of relatives, and and if you don't have those, then you are actually in a less competitive position.
Okay, thank you, Jeric.
Yeah.
We take the third question. Is
Okay.
Lily Joana Rodríguez Ramos. She said, estudiando inglés en Canadá se puede trabajar. Studying English in Canada, you can work.
Okay. Well, Canada has two major languages like English and French. Uh, it would be, again, I mentioned about being competitive, right? Having the competitive advantage as a worker, right? So somebody who can communicate with other co-workers better would obviously would have advantage as well. But I understand there are a few workers here in Canada who barely speak English, and the reason for that is they work in a background situation, like they cook, they cook Chinese food, for example. Okay, I am a Filipino. Maybe a Chinese person can cook Chinese food better too, right? So if sometimes if the owner, of course, is Chinese, then that won't be a problem. So again, it depends on the occupation. Uh, Again, knowing English is still an advantage because this is still an English speaking country. But if English is a challenge, then you basically have two options. One is, again, to improve your English knowledge. That would be better long term. And number two, again, it's not impossible. I mentioned about some back office work. Like, for example, I have again, I mentioned about jobs where the owners speak the language of the workers. So it doesn't matter if they speak Spanish, they speak German, or they speak Chinese, as, because they don't interface with clients or customers who doesn't understand those languages. So it's not impossible, but it's tough. It's not impossible, but it's tough. So again, better to understand the language as well.
Okay, perfect. In this moment, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to, in our news section, we want to remind you to visit the Immigration Canada page to be updated with the largest or last news. You can find this link on the base of this video. It's very important you stay updated of all of the immigration news. Okay, Jeric, we can continue with the next one. In
Okay.
this, the fourth is David López Castellanos. He asked, queremos hacer una reunificación familiar. Yo estoy en mi país y ella en Canadá. No estamos casados aún, pero tenemos una relación de casi 2 años. Aunque estamos buscando la manera de comprobar la relación, ¿cuál es la mejor forma de hacerlo y viajar a Canadá juntos? We want to do a family reunification. I am in the country and she is in Canada. We are not married yet, but we have a relationship of almost 2 years, although we are looking for a way to verify the relationship. What is the best way to do it and travel to Canada together?
Okay. Again, the best option is always an option that we can arrive after knowing all the information. But just basing on the limited information provided, if somebody asks about family reunification, the best way to do it is to get married. You can get married in Canada, or you can get married uh, to the country where you are outside Canada, because that's the best way to really prove that you're serious, right? Of course, 2 years of relationship is relative, meaning it depends, right? Relationship, is it a relationship like a boyfriend girlfriend relationship, or is it a relationship like what we call here as common law with the conjugal partners type of common law. Okay, here in Canada, in order to say sponsor a spouse, you have to belong to three categories. One, you're married to a Canadian or permanent resident. Okay. Two, you're a common law spouse. Common law spouse means that you live together as almost husband and wife. The only thing that is missing is really marriage. So that means you live together inside the same house, spend the same, you basically shared your lives together. Okay. Now there are cases like, for example, in the case of people who are separated because of, say, immigration. The person cannot go here in Canada because, say, visitor visas has been refused, and the Canadian or permanent resident cannot go to that same country because of, say, uh, uh, they're persecuted. So to the person who asked the question, your best option again is always to try. If you're ready, get married. That's the best way to do it. If you cannot get married because of some legal complications, like the other person is still married and cannot be annulled or cannot be divorced, then your second goal is to live together for at least 1 year, either in Canada or outside Canada. The third option is the toughest option because there are a lot of justifications that you will have to provide. Like you need to really justify why you can't get married and why you can't live together. And it's not because of just preference that you don't want to do it right now, but because you just can't do it because of any other third party reason, like that something that is beyond your control. Especially the third category is designed for those who are persecuted in their own countries. So that's why they can't go back.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one question, and Jeric, again, thank you very much for your help, is Hugo Zambrano. He said, ¿cuál es el límite de edad para aplicar a Express Entry? What is the age limit to apply to the Express Entry?
Okay. The good news is here in Canada, there's no age limit. Okay. Because basically, we don't discriminate based on age, sex, or whatever preference. Okay. But the only thing is, in the case of different programs like Express Entry or some provincial nominee programs, you basically just get less or even 0 points for being on a certain age bracket. So in the case of the Express Entry program, you basically get 0 points for age if you're 45 years old and above. But it doesn't qualify you. You just basically get lower score. So again, if you're nominated, like provincially nominated, you get 600 points. So basically, the maximum points for age is about 100 points. But if you get provincially nominated and you get 600 points, then it doesn't matter. Age doesn't matter because with the provincial nomination, you 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 can get an invitation to apply almost certainly. So again, there's no age limit. Just look at it as a total picture. It doesn't disqualify age, doesn't disqualify you from any program. It just gives you lesser points, which you can make up with any other points in the mix. Okay, so
perfect.
don't worry, 40 is still young. I'm 43, so I still consider myself young. So again, the program doesn't discriminate age. You won't be disqualified because of age alone.
Yes, and in Canada, the culture is no discriminate. Jeric said us that he is Filipino. In Philippines, they speak almost Spanish, no? You are my amigo, uno, dos, tres.
Oh, that's correct.
The Philippines speak Spanish, yeah?
So I would say maybe 20 to 30% of the local language is derived from Spanish, because basically Spain has been in the Philippines for about 300 years. So there would be a part of that in the language as well.
Okay, thank you, Jeric, again for this tip. Okay, the next question is Rafael Isaac Ríos Cubas. He asked, ¿cuánto sería el costo para poder hacer mi trámite para emigrar a Canadá? How much would it cost to do my paperwork to migrate to Canada?
Okay. It really depends on many things. Number one is, in general, the cost of going to Canada may be broken down into two major things. Okay. One is basically if you don't hire any professional like an immigration consultant like myself, you basically just pay the government fee. The government fees related to permanent residents, it can be somewhere around $1,410 per person, and basically that covers the permanent residence processing and the right of permanent residence fee and the biometric fee in general. Okay, so basically when you apply for a work permit, it just costs about $155 plus a biometric fee of $85 if you haven't done it yet. So it depends on the program that you will be using. So again, if you're not using an immigration professional like myself, then you basically just need to cover the government fees. But again, if you decide to hire a professional like us, like immigration consultants or immigration lawyers, then that's the second part of the fees, and the fees varies from different consultants, and they vary based on the complexity of your case as well. So sometimes it's cheap. Well, it's cheaper if the person is single than if a person is married with 10 kids, for example. So again, it's all about the complexity as well. So to answer your question, government fees, they're there whether you use a professional or not. That's the minimum that you will pay. If you hire a professional, it depends on the fees being charged by the professional. And again, it depends as well with the complexity of your case.
Okay, thank you, Jeric. And in this moment, we remind you to use the multiple digital content that we have in our YouTube channel, Telegram, Facebook, and the other social networks with the hashtag Soy Migrante Agradecido and Migrante Agradecido. Thank you very much for visit our content. Okay, Jeric, we can continue with our questions. And the sixth is, ¿puedo aplicar si resido temporalmente en un país distinto a mi país de origen? Can I apply if I temporarily reside in a country other than my country of origin?
Okay. Yeah. Well, basically, as long as you are legal in the country where you are, you can apply. Okay. So if you're in the U.S., for example, as long as you're legal to stay in the U.S., you can apply. So the key thing would be, are you legal in your current country? If you're not a legal applicant there, then you can't. With a few exceptions, in the case, for example, of refugees, they have a few exceptions for refugees.
Okay, interesting. Thank you, Jeric. The next one is, ¿cuánto tarda el proceso para obtener la residencia permanente canadiense? How long does the process take to obtain the Canadian permanent resident?
Okay. Again, it really depends on the program. With the express entry program, normally you can get, again, this is before COVID, you can get a permanent residence in about 3 to 6 months. But with COVID, via the express entry program, if you go by, for example, the provincial nominee program, it can take about 19 to 24 months to process the application. So so it really depends on the program. For spousal sponsorship, usually you can get result within a year. So that's it.
Okay, wait, the sponsorship is quicker?
With spousal sponsorship, yes, normally within a year. Express entry would be best, which is basically almost less than 6 months.
Okay. Thank you, Jeric. And in this moment, I going to share the Jeric Mendoza webpage that you can see. You can contact you. You can contact him if you want. You can see a couple of the documents, a couple of immigration tips, different kind of resources, and you have the information for contact if you want. You can see in your from your home in his webpage. Okay, thank you, Jeric. We continue with the last two questions. Is ¿puedo perder la residencia permanente canadiense una vez obtenida? Can I lose the Canadian permanent residence once obtained?
The answer is yes, you can lose it, mainly because of residency issue. So basically, you will need to stay in Canada for about 2 years. Within the 5 years, you're within the basically running 5 years. So there's a residency requirement, which means that you need to be in Canada while you are a permanent resident. If you say for example you stayed in a different country for about 4 years and you just stayed in Canada for 1 year in that last 5 years we're talking about, then you can lose your permanent residency that way. So again, for permanent residents, there's a residency requirement of 2 years in the past 5 years. So you should be living in Canada for every 2 years of your last 5 years.
Okay.
So it's a running thing. Yeah. So the
Sí,
only
sí,
the,
sí.
the only time you can't lose your status is really to become a Canadian citizen. Once you become a Canadian citizen, then that's it.
Okay, thank you. And the last one is, ¿no necesitaré más el pasaporte de mi país de origen una vez obtenga la residencia permanente? Will I no longer need the passport of my country of origin once I have permanent resident?
Okay. The answer is no. You will still need your passport because once you become a permanent resident, you are still a citizen of your home country. So once you become a permanent resident, you don't change your passport. You still retain your original citizenship. The only time you won't need your passport is really when you become a Canadian citizen.
Okay, excellent. And for close this event, Jeric, please give us your best suggestion for the viewers. You remember when you try to visit Canada through the internet, through photos, chats, I don't know, whatever. Please give us your best suggestion for these people in this situation right now. Thank you.
Sure. For everyone who wants to go to Canada, I would always say programs in Canada changes all the time, but they're always talking about the same thing. Number one, find a job offer. Okay? Because most of the programs here in Canada are employer driven. And how to best to find a job offer here in Canada? Use your connections, use your network, talk to your family in Canada, have them talk to somebody who can basically hire you, and basically capitalize on their relationship to these employers. That's number one. Uh, Number two is really if you cannot find a job in Canada, the second option is really it's all about really looking to your relationship with a Canadian or permanent resident, whether you are a child of a Canadian or permanent resident, or you are a spouse of Canadian or permanent resident. That's the best way to go to Canada. Find a spouse always be a good option. Again, this should be a legitimate relationship. Okay, it's either you find a job or you capitalize on your relationship with relatives in Canada. And the third one's really when all else fails, when you can't find a job offer, when you don't have friends and relatives in Canada, being an international student would always be an option for you. The only downside with this program really is that it basically requires money because you basically need to prove that you can afford to study in Canada. But bottom line, regardless of program that you read in the IRCC website, it just basically talks about three things: whether you have a job offer, or whether you have a close family relationship here in Canada, or whether you can afford to go to Canada uh, by visiting Canada or studying in Canada.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeric, for all your time. Thank you very much. You are very welcome wherever you want. Thank you very much again, Jeric.
De nada. De
Gracias,
nada, mi amigo.
amigo.
Thank you very much for inviting me. And again, it's a pleasure for me to really help people who would like to really get real answers from legitimate persons.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And you, dear member, for joining us today. We invite you to like this video. And if you agree to that Canada is your destination, please subscribe and invite your friends and contacts to subscribe also to the Telegram channel, our Telegram channel, YouTube channels in the link community on Facebook and other social networks. Share your comments by following us on social networks with the hashtag Soy Migrante Agradecido. Thank you very much. We wish you blessings, prosperity, abundance, and good health to you and your homes. Until the next time, take care. Thank you very much.